I'm CJ Peterson, and welcome to The Journey is Real, where we talk to real people with real passions to share a real portion of their heart. Today, my guest is Arlene Gale, and Arlene's podcast is actually titled, Why Writing Your Story Could Change the World. Hi, Arlene.
Hi, CJ. Thank you for spending some time with me today. I appreciate it.
Well, we appreciate you coming on. Can you explain to our listeners as to why we titled your podcast the way we did?
For me, it's about everybody has lived a story, right? If you're alive, you've got a story in you, whether it's a little snippet of your life or a bigger snippet of your life or everything that has gotten you to where you are now. You have a story to tell. So the way I like to think about it is, what is that story? How can you tell that story based on where you are now and what you've learned? And how can you take what you've learned and use it to help other people, to inspire or motivate other people? And that's why connecting your story with helping other people is so important to me, because regardless of where you came from, we've all learned something in order to survive. So if you can write your story that will bring people who've experienced the same or similar things up behind you so that they have hope, they see potential in themselves for the first time, they understand that your past does not have to define your future. All of those things, I think, make the world a better place.
Now, it's kind of a unique passion, so to speak. Where did this passion originate? What did your story, how did it evolve? Where did it come from?
Well, I've been writing for businesses and focusing on marketing and business development for 30 years. I've written for banks and engineering firms and you name it, nonprofit. I've done magazine articles and TV programming and advertising for radio and TV and newspaper and magazine. I've done that. If you need it written, by God, I've done it. I've written it. That's just the way it is. That's just the truth about me. And I got to a point in my career where I had some of these businesses asking me to write books about either their family history or their business history to celebrate a 20th or 25th or 30th, and in one case, 100-year anniversary of their business. Wow. And I loved it. I fell in love with that process. And I did it as a ghostwriter, so I can't tell you which books they are, which just really frustrated me because I feel like I've earned that street cred.
Right.
So that really frustrated me. But the other thing it did was make me realize, I have a story to write too, and I have a way to help people. And for probably, 6, 7, 8 years, I had this idea in my head of writing my own story. But I had the same fears and doubts that everybody else has who hasn't written anything. Imagine that. Somebody pointed that out to me and I went, duh, So I didn't have the time. Well, you have the time if it's a priority. I didn't have the skills. Well, that's ridiculous. I had, at that point, already 25 years of skills. I can't do this or I can't do that. It's all just, I realized, excuses for doing something that we think is going to be painful or that people are going to criticize. All of those excuses keep us safe. But I got to the point in my life where I got tired of people saying, well, if you've been abused, you're going to be an abuser. If you were raised by an alcoholic, you're going to be an alcoholic.
Yeah, I don't agree with any of that.
I don't agree with any of that either. And that was part of the impetus for me to get out of my own way and write my story. So my story I told in my book called Face Forward, Move Forward. And I tell the story starting with my very first memory at 4 years old. And then I go through my life talking about my dad, who was a multi-generational abusive alcoholic. And then my mother's side of the family used culture and religion against the women in the family to keep them in their place. And
you started on that one, but okay.
Yeah, so I started on that one and I wrote it. The turning point is I'm 18 years old. I've been thrown out of the house. I've been beaten for the last time. I have nothing but the clothes on my back and car keys. Now what am I going to do?
Mhm.
So the rest of the story is about processing. Do I allow my past to be my future? In which case the answer was, I really would literally rather be dead.
Mhm.
Or do I do something different? And then it occurred to me, how do you live a life that's 180 degrees different than anything you saw modeled growing up? So that became my journey, is how do I live my life differently? And so the second half of the book is about the tools that I used that worked and didn't work, because I don't like perfect people. And I know other people don't like perfect people too. That even superheroes in movies are not perfect. They all have flaws.
Mhm.
So in my book, I shared, somebody said, try this, and I tried it and it made things worse, or it didn't work. So I fine-tuned it in this way. So I wrote Face Forward, Move Forward. It was published. It won multiple national, international awards, became a big bestseller. And then something really weird happened. I started getting speaking gigs from stuff that was in the book. And I knew when I wrote the book, I wanted to speak on some of the topics, but I didn't really know if that was possible, but
Mhm.
it happened. And now that book's been out 5 years and I still get speaking engagements based on topics from that book.
Mhm.
So, and then that's how the book writing business coach got born, because when all of this happened, people started asking me to help them write their story. And so that's where I was able to combine my passion for writing and marketing with my passion for helping people tell their story and use it to make the world a better place.
Okay, so now let's talk about that for a second. When you help somebody write their story, okay, do you get the cred for it, or do they get the cred for it? I mean, I know you really don't care, but what does that process look like? I mean, how much do you help them, and how much do they just take and run with it?
Well, for all of my clients, I help them from before the beginning, because most people think that writing the book, sitting down and writing, is the beginning. But because of my background and my expertise, I help people write a foundational marketing plan. Because if you write a book and put it on the market and then you start trying to figure out how are you going to sell it, who are you going to sell it to, who are you talking to, if you wait, it's too late. That's my motto. So I work with all of my clients to figure out, what is your why? Why do you want to write this book? Who do you want to help? How do you want to use it? So, for example, if you want to become a motivational speaker versus a life coach or a business coach versus someone who does workshops, the content in the book is going to change,
Mhm.
because you want to address the needs of each one of those parts of your target market. And then we talk about, so who is your target market and where do you find them and how do you talk to them? Because if I want to talk to college kids, I'm not going to use quotes from music or supermodels or actors or whatever from my generation that they're not going to know, because that completely destroys my credibility with them.
Mhm.
So it's that foundational marketing plan that is so busy, or so important, because business and combining that with your story is what I specialize in, because some people want to write their story to help fund a nonprofit, for example, or they want to write their story to go out and talk to parent groups or college kids or whatever to inspire them. They want to become a life coach or a business coach to teach people how they can get out of their own way and do something different and better. So really knowing why you want to write your story and how you want to use it is key to success for doing it just that way.
Okay. Now, do you only write nonfiction or help people write nonfiction, or do you write fiction as well? Why or why not?
Well, I write fiction as well, and I help people write fiction, but my strong suit is in nonfiction
Mhm.
because of the way people are using their books in the long run to, like I said, fund a nonprofit or to build a business. And so nonprofit or nonfiction is my forte. And I think I didn't really answer the question you had a minute ago about how do I work with people. I run the gambit between helping them write their marketing plan and outline their whole book. And from there, either they can write the book themselves, and I help them through the process with weekly coaching calls. We set goals, we meet those goals, And I become at that point an accountability partner
Mm-hmm.
who helps them set goals and finish the book. And I can do everything to the other end of the spectrum, which is ghostwriting. And then in between is what I call co-authoring. I don't ghostwrite anymore without getting some sort of a credit for that.
Mm-hmm.
On the inside cover where it says, the ISBN number and copyright, you give credit to the photo or the cover artist or the interior artist, you give credit to me too, because what that does is it helps me continue to build my street cred. So when people say, who have you worked for? What books have you written? I can say, go look at this one, go look at this one, go look at that one. But the other thing it does for my client is it gives them access to my network and to the people I know. So it becomes a win-win scenario because I'm marketing them and they're helping to market me too. So it doesn't matter how much or how little a person wants to do of the actual writing of their book. I've done it all.
Mm-hmm. Now, on your website, which is bookwritingbusiness.com, that's BOOKWRITING BUSINESS.com.
Correct.
You have multiple different resources, including an actual online course. Can you tell us about that?
Sure. Well, first of all, if you just want to check out kind of my philosophy and what I do, you can go to the bottom of the homepage in bookwritingbusiness.com, and there's a free book, and I think it's called The 5 Steps to Writing Your Book. And it's something that a person can not only get to know me, but actually start thinking about, oh, these are the things that I need to think about first before I start writing the book. But I have 2 online courses. One of them is a self-paced course. It's got 20 videos and a bonus video, and each video takes you through a step of the book writing process. But it's a holistic approach, so I talk about publishing. What are the options? What is it going to cost? I talk about writing press releases and doing marketing and bestseller campaigns. So it really is a huge bundle of information that's broken down into about 15-minute chunks because it's video based, but you get a workbook and you get worksheets so that you can answer the questions I ask in the video that are specific to your book. The other online course I have is a 12-week coaching program. It's also video based. So for example, the videos will release on a Friday, and then you have the whole weekend to work on the assignment for that weekend. And then the next week on Tuesday or Wednesday or something, whatever the group agrees on, we will have a coaching call for an hour or two so that and I keep these small groups so everybody gets attention and gets help with addressing a problem or a stumbling block, or everybody gets a yay you, good for you, well done, and then we set the next goal. The thing I'm doing right now is the Book Writing Business Academy, and it's a group on Facebook. And with that, I'm starting just weekly coaching calls. So if you're interested in any of that, you can send me an email, Arlene@bookwritingbusiness.com, and that's ARLENE @bookwritingbusiness.com. I'll give you a free initial consultation, talk to you about your story, and we can kind of brainstorm back and forth and see how well we fit and we can work together.
Okay. One more thing I want to touch on before I give you the last few minutes. You have a podcast, and it's kind of in line with this whole book writing business. It's called Mindset Meets Mastery. Can you tell us about that?
I started Mindset Meets Mastery. It took me about a year to come up with a topic and a concept that felt right, that balanced, who I am and what I've learned, because, we all have those negative mindsets, those voices in our head, or other things that people have told us that sometimes we latch on and we begin to own them as if they're our own, but they're really not. So mindset is something that I think people get stuck on. So I want to talk about in my podcast, what are those mindsets? What are those myths or misconceptions that we hold that are really not true because we think they're true because they said they were true, but they're really not. So how we get from the mindset to the mastery is, what is the problem and what is a potential solution or 2 or 3, and how can you apply them? So I just finished March Madness, and for me, March Madness was me hosting my own podcast for 4 weeks to talk about the different things people need to know or to answer questions that I've actually been asked about writing your book. But I bring on experts in all businesses to talk about what is their expertise, what are the myths and mindsets that they see in their clients, and how do they address those myths or mindsets or misconceptions and help their clients transform that into mastery, to success, and whatever success means for you.
Mm-hmm.
So you can find that podcast, by the way, on arlenegale.com. That's ARLENE, Gale, Gale. I know Gale can be spelled evidently 100 different ways, and I didn't realize that because I just spell it one way, Gale. But I would love for you to connect on my podcast and connect with me on social media, because you can ask me questions and I'll answer them either there and or the podcast.
Mm-hmm. Well, you've got a myriad of, like, a whole plethora of different resources and stuff people can use. So if you guys have a story out there that you think needs to be told or should be told, get a hold of Arlene and she'll help you write it. Arlene, I want to give you the last few minutes. Do you have anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah, I do, because you know your life story,
Mm-hmm.
and you may not be clear about how you can use it to help people, but you do know that you've learned a lot to survive and even succeed to where you are today. And if that's the case, then let's work together, because the rest of it we can do together.
Mm-hmm.
Some people come to me, they just want to write a family legacy. Some people want to go into the world and speak and fund a nonprofit. And whatever your reason is, believe that it is a calling, and believe that your story needs to be told and put out there in some way, shape, or form. Because if we've gotten this far, there's a reason, and that reason may be that your story will help make the world a better place to be.
Thank you. I know a lot of people are struggling with the fact that, well, my story isn't anything. I promise you there's somebody out there who needs to hear that story. So get a hold of Arlene if you've got a story you feel may need to be told, or just call her and say, hey, is this an actual story? Or what do you think of this story? And she'll be honest with you. She'll tell you. She's great.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because, I mean, that's my passion. And if you're in business, you know, when you have a process or a system in business, that usually comes from your expertise, usually sprouts from something you've been through. So telling your story as part of how you built your business and how you and why you work with your clients is invaluable. Because again, there are people who are starting today to build their business, and you've been successful for several years. You can bring them up behind you and you can help them succeed too.
Mm-hmm. And it isn't just about businesses, it's personal too.
Yeah, personal and professional, either way. Absolutely. It's just tell your story. Let's make the world a better place to be.
There's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of stories out there, and somebody needs to hear yours. So get a hold of Arlene. Arlene, can you give us the email one more time?
Absolutely. My email is arlene@bookwritingbusiness.com. Bookwritingbusiness.com is also my website, and I'm on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Pinterest. If you can't find me, you're not working hard enough. I don't know what else to say. Yeah, but go to Book Writing Business on Facebook and like that page, and you'll see I give writing prompts, because so many people think that they can't write. The best way to learn how to write is to write every day. Work on those writing muscles and make them bigger and stronger, and build your confidence to the point where you feel like, yeah, man, I can write my story, no problem.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing your heart today. It was a joy. We really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you, CJ. You be well out there, and thank you again for this opportunity.
Sure. And thank you guys for listening to The Journey is Real. We talk to real people with real passion to share a real portion of their hearts. I'm CJ of CJ Peterson. CJ Peterson of CJPetersonWrites.com. Until next time.